What's going on, guys? Radio Graffiti here, and today I want to talk to you guys about Prison Break, the entire series. Now, I know I'm really late to this party. This show first came out almost 2 decades ago, but I finally got around to binge watching it on Netflix, and I really enjoyed it, for the most part. We'll get into that later. But for Season 1, what I really enjoyed about Season 1 of Prison Break is Lincoln and Michael's relationship. Basically, the entire show in Season 1 is just Michael Scofield getting himself put into the same prison as his brother, who is about to be executed. Lincoln Burrows has been falsely accused of murdering Terrence Steadman, the vice president's brother. So Michael Scofield, with all these plans with the prison, gets himself put into the same prison as Lincoln, and his whole plan is to break him out. Now, when I first heard about the premise of this show, I was like, how in the hell does it take 5 seasons for Michael Scofield to escape from prison? I was kind of worried. I'm like, is this going to drag on too much? How is this going to work? Seems like a pretty simple premise. So how does this expand through all these seasons, through all these episodes? Well, luckily Season 1, that wasn't a problem. It was very focused. It was very much just, we're either in the prison with Michael and the other inmates, or we're out on the outside with Veronica and Nick as they're trying to figure out who the company is, why they want Lincoln Burrows put to death, which was very much needed. I didn't want to spend the entire season just watching a bunch of inmates inside a prison. So luckily we get some scenes occasionally on the outside. What's going on out there? So the evil president lady, she was very lame and generic. Very one-dimensional. She's the one that's kind of behind this whole thing, or at least that's how it seems in the beginning. She's the vice president who is aware that her brother's still alive and that he's hiding out somewhere. He basically faked his death just so Lincoln could go to prison and get executed for it. But every time we get to her, it's like the most uninteresting part of the entire season. She's very generic, just, oh, they must die. Oh, I want Lincoln Burrows dead. No questions asked. There's nothing to this character besides she's just an evil bitch who wants Lincoln dead. That's pretty much it. There's nothing else to her character, so I found her very generic, one-dimensional, and just kind of wanted to move on every time we cut to her. I think the show kind of has a problem when it tries to do anything with the female characters in the show, because Veronica is also a complete moron in this show. She's constantly calling people, telling them too much information. She's Lincoln's lawyer, trying to expose the company. She's also madly in love with him. And this bitch is so stupid. I was so glad when she finally got popped, because holy shit is she dumb. She knows that she's being constantly followed and stalked by the company, but yet she constantly keeps leaving voicemails and phone calls to people telling them her location and what she's about to do. Constantly bringing people who don't want to be seen out into the light and then just kind of leaving them to kind of be kidnapped or killed. Constantly is making dumb moves. She's got to be one of the most incompetent lawyers I've ever seen. And honestly, every time I cut to Veronica and Nick, it was kind of a waste of time because it never really went anywhere. They're constantly trying to prove Lincoln Burrows' innocence, and it never really goes anywhere. It just ends up with both of them getting popped in the head. So essentially, all of those scenes just led to absolutely nothing. But I guess it was kind of for the show, getting us on the path of the company and just what exactly they are capable of. But there's not really any payoff this season. One of my favorite episodes of the season is when Michael has to get the AC turned off, and then the entire prison just starts going crazy. All the inmates are losing their shit. They start riots. They're taking over the prison. It's so crazy and so intense. But after that, it kind of just goes back to normal. I think they even called in the National Guard or something to come help because it was just completely out of control. The prisoners took over the prison. They're about to rape and kill Sara. They were just going crazy in there. And then after that, we get to the next episode and it's kind of just we get maybe one sentence where they're like, oh yeah, that was some crazy shit, wasn't it? And everything's just kind of back to normal. Wow, that was kind of weird. You think that'd have some kind of consequences for the inmates or extra security. You think they'd do something about this, but nope. Kind of just goes right back to normal. Now, as I figured with this show, there's constant setbacks that keep Michael from just executing his plan. Because in real life, he would probably actually just get away with just executing his plan and only take probably 10 episodes. But because they want to expand this to 20, there has to be some setbacks. Michael getting his tattoo burned off, or John losing control of PI for a bit. There's a new guy coming in and John's like, hey, Bellick, I'm supposed to be in charge of the PI. And Bellick's like, not anymore, you're not. And then a pipe gets sealed so they can't escape. Kind of ruins Michael's plan. So it's these constant things here and there that kind of set back Michael from just escaping from prison with all these other guys. And then more and more people keep getting added to the roster of people that need to be freed. And then next thing you know, it's there's 10 people that want to go. I think the show is really good at building tension. It constantly kept me hooked all throughout, even when there was parts I was like, okay, this is kind of ridiculous, are we really going to do this part and this? Like, Michael's tattoo gets burned off, so he has to go to the crazy house where that mentally unstable guy is, and he has to ask him to kind of retrace what his tattoo looked like. We spend like an entire episode there. But yeah, there's still a lot of intense moments all throughout the show that kept me hooked and never kept me from wanting to stop watching. You know, I wanted to see Lincoln get freed. I wanted to see the company get exposed. I wanted to keep watching because Michael was also just such an interesting character. Like, this dude is just so incredibly smart. He's like cool, calm, quiet. He's always got a plan. He's always got a trick up his sleeve. Just when you think things are going south for him, he always has something in his back pocket. Like, Michael was just such an interesting character to watch all throughout the season. And Lincoln, you know, he's kind of the hothead. He's just the muscle. I love their dynamic, especially later on in the seasons where Michael's kind of just a smart guy. He doesn't really fight as much, but Lincoln's just the hot-headed muscle who's going to kick your ass while Michael just stands there. I love it. I think that was great. I think the best part about the show is just how much you really care about the characters. Like, even Sucre. Sucre is just a lovable idiot. Like, you know his girlfriend's probably cheating on him. In fact, she actually is cheating on him with his cousin. And he's kind of just like, oh, you know, oh, fuck him, you know, we're still together. Mari Cruz loves me. Then you also got Teabag. He's like the worst of all the inmates. He's like a rapist. He's a pedophile. He's done so many terrible things. But the actor is just so great that you can't help but still find him very entertaining. It's like, you know, you're not supposed to say you like Teabag, but you kind of do like Teabag because he's just so smart. And he always finds a way out of these sticky situations that Michael usually leaves him in. He's like the Joker and Michael is Batman. It's just so interesting seeing their dynamic all throughout the entire series. Another character I felt bad for in the show was Tweener. He gets introduced a little later on in the show. He ends up snitching on Michael, kind of foiling their plans. So you should hate the guy, but you also don't want to see him, you know, getting raped and beaten and, you know, bullied. He doesn't really deserve that. So I think the show does a really good job making you feel bad for characters that you probably shouldn't feel bad for. The Pope is also a pretty interesting character. He always sticks to his morals. He never really backs down. He sticks up for what he believes in. He seems like a really good-hearted guy. There's also other characters like C-Note, who gets more to do later on in the show. And also John, who doesn't stick around for much longer after this. Like, they were cool characters in the show. John goes away for a little bit after he gets his throat slit by Teabag. Then he comes in a little bit later. But yeah, I think all the characters in the show are pretty solid. There's not any that I dislike. Even the prison guards, like Bellick, you end up liking him a lot later on in the show. And you also got Kellerman, you know, more characters that you love to root against. Like Teabag, Kellerman, Bullock. I was constantly found myself entertained by this show. Season 1 is looked at as the best season of the entire series, and I can't really disagree with that. It feels a lot more focused than other seasons, and it feels like they really had a solid plan and layout for the entire show for this season. So, Season 1, yes, they do escape prison. They do what the title says of the show. They break out of prison, and then Season 2 is all about them on the run. And before they escape the prison, the old guy is like, oh, hey, by the way, there's like $5 million stashed out somewhere. So Season 2 is all about them on the run trying to find the money, which I really liked. I'm glad for Season 2 we finally got out of the prison and we get more of the characters on the outside. Even if they are on the run, it's still just a breath of fresh air to be out of the prison and make it feel more like a normal TV show. Something a little different. I love the whole cat and mouse game that Mahomes and Michael play throughout the season. That's definitely one of the most interesting parts to me. Just Michael trying to go somewhere and then Detective Mahomes trying to figure out where he's going, you know, following his footsteps, following his clues. Although sometimes I think Mahomes, he was a little bit too smart for Michael, you know, he was always able to follow exactly what Michael was doing. Like, he would just find the most random shit and be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that's gonna mean. Like, he could just find some random numbers on Michael's arm and then eventually come to the conclusion that, oh, the coordinates, we gotta follow them. Oh, they're going here, they're going to this place. Like, sometimes he was just a little too smart. Like, you could tell that the script just wanted him to be as smart as Michael, even when you don't really feel like it was always earned. It was only like every now and then, but for the most part, you do buy that he is sort of Michael's rival, constantly chasing him down for the company. And you think Mahomes is a good guy, but it turns out he's another bad guy. This is a theme the show does a lot. We'll come back to that later. Where there's constantly parts where you think, oh, this person's actually one of the good ones, and then they go turn around to start killing the good guy, and you're like, oh, okay. That happens a lot throughout the show. They like to have a lot of twists. So Season 2 is basically just Michael and Mahomes going back and forth, but also a lot of Lincoln, you know, wearing a hat or just making eye contact with people, getting himself made. Like, I lost count of how many cars they had to steal in Season 2, because Lincoln was constantly getting himself made, or, you know, some other inmate was getting himself made. And it's like every time they went out in public somewhere, Of course, the people right next to him just happen to have the fresh morning paper to see, oh, look, it's the Fox River 9. It's the escaped prisoners. OMG, I'm going to go walk over here in the distance where you can't see me and call the police. It happens so much all throughout the season that kind of got annoying. It's like, okay, I get it, they're on the run, and Lincoln's not really doing much to kind of help himself. It's like he's trying to make eye contact heavily with everybody. Like, dude, do you want to get caught or what? It's like he's over here trying to eye fuck women. And then he's end up calling the police on him. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Lincoln is just kind of useless. He's always getting them into trouble. But just like season 1, there's constant twists and turns that keep you interested all throughout the season. Like, when Bullet goes to prison after being framed for the murder of his friend. Then you find out, oh, Kellerman has a crush on the president, and there's a whole thing with that. Terrence Steadman killing himself to protect the company. And then Paul having to go out to kill Sara. Sara's dad pulling a Jeffrey Epstein where, he doesn't kill himself, but they make it look like he does. Then you got Detective Mahomes chasing down the Fox River escaped prisoners. He kills Tweener and he kills the mentally unstable guy. Can't remember what his name was. But I'm surprised he made it out as long as he did. Dude didn't even have a plan at all. He was kind of just going with the flow. Then you got C-Note's story. His daughter's getting sick. His wife ends up getting locked up because of him. And eventually he gets told by Mahomes, you have to kill yourself to end up saving your family. And he tries to do it, but he fails. But he still ends up winning. I really liked how C-Note got a happy ending in this season. I feel like there's so many times in the show where they feel like, oh, people need to have a miserable, terrible ending to their character arc. I also think T-Bag's story this season was kind of lame. Like, there's a part where he goes after the woman. Her name is Susan. She's basically the one who rats on T-Bag. She finds out on TV that he's an escaped convict and that he's, a pedophile, he's a predator, he's this crazy psychopath. So she calls the police and gets him locked up, and he vows to come hunt her down whenever he gets out of prison. And he keeps his word. For about 5 or 6 episodes, he kidnaps the family, then he's just eventually like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. And he lets him go. So it's kind of just like, well, what was the point of that? That whole storyline went pretty much nowhere. It was kind of just really lame. I found Kellerman's journey very interesting this season. He goes from season 1 just being, the company's loyal hitman, just constantly chasing down the main characters, trying to kill him. I hated this guy so much in season 1. I wanted nothing more than for Kellerman to die, but later on in the season of season 2, it's around the point after he tries to kill Sara and she just escapes and he kind of just gets demoted because they think he's incompetent. And then he ends up just trying to kill himself, but he fucks that up, so he just says, well, I guess I'll just go prove Sara's innocence. That's exactly what he does. He exposes the company, and I really loved seeing his journey as a character. I went from really hating his guts to, you know what, this guy isn't so bad. I like having him around a little bit. So the season ends. You think it's a good old happy ending. Lincoln, Sara, and Michael, they're getting ready to do something with their $5 million, go to Panama or whatever and just chill out. But then that freaking evil Asian little company guy pops up out of nowhere with a gun in their face. Kind of makes you wonder how you never seen him coming, but whatever. Sara kills him, and then for some reason Michael ends up going to prison. I don't know why. It can't be for killing the Asian guy because that was self-defense. He was about to kill them. I believe it stated somewhere in season 3 that he was kind of just put there so that they could help him get Whistler out, but it's also like, well, why did the police come and take Michael to prison then? Are the police in on it? Do the police know that the company people want Michael in prison so that he can break somebody out? Because if they have that much power, then why wouldn't they just tell the police, hey, just leave the door open for Whistler and just, kind of leave the emergency exit door open for him or something. Why go through the trouble of having someone else break him out? So I'm not really sure how and why Michael's even in prison in the first place. But yeah, season 3, Michael is back in prison and he has to break somebody else out. Not his brother, but instead some guy known as the Whistler. So basically the whole story for season 3 is Sara and LJ are kidnapped. Yet again, it's kind of a running gag with this show that LJ and Sara constantly get kidnapped. And Michael and Lincoln constantly have to go and rescue them. Sara's always needing to be rescued, and LJ is pretty much irrelevant to the show until he needs to be kidnapped to motivate Lincoln or Michael to do something. Sona is a crazy, unmanaged prison on the inside, which is kind of a good thing because it makes it a little different from Fox River. Because you could end up saying, oh, Michael's back in prison again. This is just like season 1. You're kind of right, but only this time on the inside of the prison, they're unmanaged. Nobody's really looking after them. They leave one of the inmates in charge of kind of running the prison on the inside. I thank God it's only 13 episodes, so it's a much shorter season than we've had before. It's not too much filler this season. A lot of it's more of them getting to the point. Michael tries to escape a couple of times and it fails. Then he ends up getting put in a box for an episode. You know, there's little things here and there that kind of keep the plan from going the way Michael expects, but luckily that doesn't happen too much as it does in season 1. Like, Whistler gets a helicopter sent for him, and the people in charge just say, fuck it, there's been too many prison escapes, we're just going to throw Michael in a box. Like, you know, at some point, Sucre, he ends up working for this prison. Don't really know when that happens or how he ends up working for a prison when he's literally an escaped convict. But he ends up fucking up, as per usual, thus keeping some things from happening. You know, just constant setbacks in Prison Break. It makes things a little bit more intense because you think, oh, you know, here's a plan and here's how it's going to go. And then when it's time for actually things to start happening, you know, oh, last minute, oh, this character can't do this and that. Kind of helps make the show more intense. And more gets revealed about the Whistler as the season goes on, which makes it a little more interesting as well. But he doesn't really matter because, spoiler alert for season 4, he dies in the first episode, so it's not much left for his character. He works for the company or something. Doesn't matter. He's about to die soon anyway. I kind of wish Sucre died this season because he would have went out in a really badass and emotionally tragic way, where the guards are basically just like, hey, do you know where Michael is? If you don't tell us, we're going to bury you alive. And Sucre's just like, you know what? Go ahead. I'm not snitching on my friend. He's willing to be buried alive just to keep Michael's secret. We all need a friend like Sucre. This dude is a fucking badass for that. It's a shame, though, that he doesn't die here. I think that would have been a really honorable, tragic death for Sucre. Like, he could have saved himself if he just ratted on Michael. You know, the dude's about to be a father, and he never even gets to meet his child because he got buried alive keeping Michael's secret. That would have been such a crazy way to end his character. But, nope. Keeping him alive for season 4. And that's all I got to say for season 3. It's only 13 episodes, so it's not as much to talk about as there is for all the other seasons. We get some interesting power dynamics here and there with some of the guys they got running the prison, wanting to backstab each other, and you know, typical teabag fashion, he ends up rising to the top by betraying the main guy of the prison and kind of taking over the prison after Michael already escapes. I also thought the prison break scene in this season was pretty cool. I thought it was really clever that Michael kind of let them go first so that they could get caught, and that was kind of Michael's whole plan. Was for them to get caught, and then they just roll right under the cars. Like, there was a million ways it could have went wrong, but it didn't, and it was pretty cool. Like I say, I really love seeing Michael's plans play out in this show. It's one of the most interesting parts about the show. So season 3, yeah, it ends with Michael thinking that Sara is dead, so he vows to get revenge on them for killing Sara, which leads us to season 4. Prison Break season 4, I can best describe this season as Scylla. Do you have Scylla? Where is Scylla? Do this and that, and I'll bring you Scylla. I don't know where Scylla is. Scylla. There you go. I just described the entire season for you. Was that a little annoying? Imagine having to watch over 20 episodes of that. Every single episode. Scylla. Holy shit, dude. This is one of the worst seasons of the entire show, hands down. I don't even know what this season is. Kind of reminds me of Fast and the Furious. And not in a good way. So basically in season 4 of Prison Break, Michael and the gang have to find these secret cards that the company people have, and they have to put it all together to form one big old Scylla, which has a lot of bad, terrible things on it that can expose the entire company. I don't really know exactly what Scylla is. I don't really care. But I do know it was a very lame plot device to keep the season going. We start off the season with a pretty tragic death. We get introduced to a new assassin for the company. His name is Wyatt. He's a big, emotionalist robot motherfucker. Literally every time he talks, he's kind of just like, I see you are bleeding out. I see how that can be an inconvenience for you. Give me Scylla, or I will rip your fucking tongue out. You'll never see your child ever again. This will be your last warning. That's how he talks pretty much through the entire show. He literally sounds like a robot, which is kind of cool because it makes him sound very cold and emotionless, like he has no heart. And man, I can't wait to see this guy die. It is so satisfying when Mahomes finally gets his revenge on him. Because this piece of shit, he ends up killing an 8-year-old boy. I believe he was 8. He was pretty young. It's Mahomes' son. I don't know why he killed him. I guess he just wanted to send Mahomes a message, but I feel like Detective Mahomes, he kind of gets over it kind of quickly. Like, we get one scene of him kind of crying about it, and then after that, he's kind of just like, alright, on to the mission. I will get revenge for my son's death. It's like, wow, dude, you moved on pretty quick from that. I expected you to kind of, be a complete wreck after your son just got murdered. Sounds like one of the most tragic things that could ever happen to somebody. And this guy is kind of like, give me a minute and I'll be alright. And if the season wasn't annoying enough, T-Bag gets this whole little subplot where he has to be Coal Pfeiffer. He finds it in this little book that Whistler had, and he kind of just follows it all throughout the entire season. I thought this subplot was so boring and felt like a huge waste of time. It's not until T-Bag and Gretchen team up where things start getting a little more fun with this subplot, but honestly, I feel like this whole thing only existed so that T-Bag could get into this office area and can dig underground where Scylla is. But that doesn't make up for all the boring shit we had to go through to get there. They could have found another way for them to get where Scylla is, or Scylla could have been located somewhere else. We didn't have to sit through all these boring scenes of T-Bag pretending to be Coal Pfeiffer. Like, we get it, T-Bag knows how to adapt and trick people, but I don't need to see all this boring office stuff. I didn't find it very entertaining. Michael also gets nerfed this season, because we gotta have some drama. He starts having these nosebleeds. He has some kind of illness that his mother also had. We'll get more to that later on. This season, we also lose Brad Bellick. He's the officer from season 1, who's constantly been in the show even after he got fired from Fox River. I actually really liked his character. He was pretty entertaining. He was a mama's boy. He was kind of just a little chicken shit who liked to act tough. He was a kind of a fun character, though, to watch on the show. I didn't really mind Bellick. But I think him dying here was just the right time, because there really wasn't much more for his character after season 3, so I think this is a good death for the season. And it's also revealed that the whole guy that's responsible for Michael and his team trying to get Scylla, whose name is Agent Self, turns out he's actually a bad guy. They reveal this the same way they do with Mahomes, where you think, oh, this guy might actually be one of the good ones. And then they reveal it by having the character kill somebody else in a very brutal, unnecessary way. It's like, did you guys just copy what you did with Mahomes in season 2? Like, how many times in this show are we going to have to get introduced to a character we think is good, but it turns out, oh no, they're actually bad, or oh, they actually have a secret agenda, or this person's actually working for the company. They did it also with Nick in season 1. Like, dude, literally every fucking season we have to go through the same shit. At this point, you just have to assume that everybody is evil. It's very annoying when they keep doing the same twist over and over. You're just making it predictable. Oh, and speaking of twists, get ready for this one. So, yet again, just like in season 1, Michael and Lincoln's parent is alive. And they also worked for the company. Yes, they're doing the same exact thing they did in season 1, only instead of it being Michael and Lincoln's dad, now it's Michael and Lincoln's mom. She's actually still alive, but only now she's an evil bitch. She's very generic as well. Like, literally there's nothing to this character other than she's an evil bitch. You never really get any signs of her actually really caring about Michael or Lincoln. She's just a piece of shit all throughout. Like, you look at T-Bag, he's a piece of shit as well, but everyone really likes T-Bag. I think he's one of the most interesting villains of the entire show. Because, well, yeah, you do kind of expect him to backstab you every now and then. Occasionally he does kind of help out. He's kind of a necessary evil here and there. And he's not just 100% evil. There are signs of T-Bag actually kind of having a heart. Like, for example, when he lets Susan and her kids go, and he just moves on. Or later on in season 5 when he finds out he has a son and he tries to become a better person. So, T-Bag's not a 100% complete piece of shit. He's not a generic evil guy. That's why he's a more interesting character. And why characters like this just don't work out as well. I feel like more of the later half of the season, it really drags. I mean, good God, it's just Michael and Lincoln's evil mom, Agent Self, Gretchen, and T-Bag working together. Sara keeps getting kidnapped over and over, or she's in danger and she needs rescuing. It's just the same shit, what it feels like for 6 or 7 episodes. I think the season really drags. I really did not like the season at all. Doesn't even feel like the same show. Like, you look at season 1, then you look at season 4. Feels like you're watching 2 completely different shows. Oh, and the worst part of the entire season is Michael dies. When I first watched this, I didn't even realize he was dead until it showed his grave. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, so there's Sara, and there's Michael's son. But where is Michael? Why are they going to Michael? And it shows his grave. And at that point, I didn't even want to watch season 5. Because I was like, what the fuck? You don't kill Michael. He's the most interesting character of the entire series. He's the last one that should die. This is so fucking stupid. We'll get to it more in season 5, but for years, people thought this is how Prison Break would end, with Michael dying. And it did end like that until we got to season 5, where they're like, oh no, we're sorry guys, we didn't mean to kill off Michael, we're just kidding, he's actually still alive. But that didn't come out until like 2017. So for years, people thought Michael Scofield got killed off of Prison Break. This is so stupid. Just the way his death is. Like, really? He dies so that Sara can open a door? Oh, and by the way, where is LJ and where is Lincoln's girlfriend that he had in season 3? That went absolutely nowhere. LJ's like never important to the show until I need Lincoln to steal something or, do this or that thing. His only purpose in the show is just to be kidnapped. What a useless character. So yeah, I'm sorry, I think season 4 was kind of bad. At least it was kind of not much of a struggle to get through as season 5 is, but I still feel like season 4, it's way too freaking long. We spent way too much time on this silly stuff. They should have chopped this down at least in half. I feel like the show really could have ended back in like season 2 or season 3. Put all your stupid little company stuff in season 2. We could have saved a lot of time on the whole $5 million that they're chasing after and, the whole being on the run thing. We could have really trimmed all that down and just focused more on the company. The company being exposed and being taken down. And if you wanted to do a season 3 so bad, you could have had, where Michael gets blamed for it and he has to clear his name or something. And you could have ended it in season 3. I don't feel like season 4 was necessary. Especially not season 5, but we're about to get to that in just a second. Season 5 of Prison Break is a complete chore to get through. I hated this season. It dragged so much. It was so predictable. It was such a slog to get through. As soon as Jacob gets introduced, you instantly know he's either evil or he's going to die. Because Michael's still alive. This is the last season of Prison Break. Him and Sara have to end up together. Or else it's not satisfying. Nobody watches this show to see Sara end up with this Jacob guy. We want to see her with Michael. So something has to happen to Jacob. And the easiest way for us to not feel bad about him dying is if you make him the bad guy. It's so predictable. You can call it from like the first time he even appears in the show. They wouldn't bring Michael back from the dead just to kill him off. So of course he ends up having his happy ending with Sara. We waste so much time this season with this stupid shit about Michael needing to break a terrorist out of prison and this war going on and bombs going off left and right. I didn't give a single shit about any of this. Michael's in prison yet again. He's secretly been working with some other guy, so he had to fake his death so he could go and escape people out of prison under a different code name. I kind of just take as a writer saying, look, we know we fucked it by killing Michael off in season 4. We know you guys hated that, so we're going to retcon that. So I didn't really mind that part as much. I was kind of just ready to accept it. Like, it's okay, I forgive you. We can, come on home. That's kind of like when you and your girlfriend get in an argument and she comes to you to start apologizing and you're just like, it's okay, go on ahead. I know you fucked up. It's okay. We both know it. So let's just move on. That's what this felt like. So that part didn't really bother me. Michael still being alive. What did bother me though is that he's in prison again. He has to rescue somebody again. It constantly just drags. Same thing as always in Prison Break. Michael has a plan to escape. Some things go wrong here and there. He ends up finding another plan to escape. And then he finally gets out. Takes him about 5 or 6 tries, but he'll always eventually escape from prison. And I really didn't like that C-Note came back. It feels like he only came back because the actor wanted to, not really because the story demanded him to come back. I really enjoyed that his character got a conclusion in season 2 and that he didn't have to come back. So seeing him come back this season, I was like, dude, just go back to your daughter and your wife. We don't want you back in here. I liked your character, and I also liked that you got your end. You got a happy ending. Why are you coming back to the show and getting involved in all this bullshit? Maybe the actor who plays Sucre just didn't want to come back like that. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't trying to be in the show as much because he doesn't appear in this season that much. I really like Sucre a lot more than C-Note. I always felt like Sucre was kind of another brother to Lincoln and Michael. Oh yeah, they just reminded me in season 4 they try to pretend that Michael and Lincoln aren't brothers because, Lincoln's actually adopted. Or something along those lines. That was really stupid. I don't care what the show says. Michael and Lincoln are brothers. I'm not even going to acknowledge that stupid shit they tried to pull. Where it's like, actually they're not really brothers. Fuck off. So yeah, season 5. Don't have much to say here. Luckily it's only like 9 or 10 episodes. It's not really that long. Thank God. It feels like they only brought this show back just so they could bring back Michael and give him a happy ending. Which is how you know season 4 sucks, when they have to renew the show for another season just to fix their mistakes from the last season. That's how you know you really fucked up. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the series of Prison Break. Good lord, that's a lot to remember. It's gotta be like 60 episodes of this show. Trying to remember every little thing here and there. Hope I covered just about everything important to talk about in the show. Because if I talked about every single episode, I'd be here for probably 100 hours. So, hope I got to all the little nitty gritty stuff here and there. But yeah, what did you guys think about Prison Break? I actually really like the show. I just think they should have ended it a lot sooner and that there's a lot of times where it feels like things kind of drag on to keep the show going, like a lot of filler shit that we have to go through. Like, oh, Michael can't escape from prison this early, we have to drag it out a little bit longer, so we're going to have this thing happen so like it can foil Michael's plan and we can keep the show going a little bit longer. But besides that, I really like the show. Just want to say it ended it 2 seasons ago. It's really intense, it's a fun watch. I really like the characters on the show. The actor who plays T-Bag really carries the show on his back whenever it's not on Michael and Lincoln. I don't regret watching it at all. I think it was a really good show. So what do you guys think about Prison Break? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section down below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I will see you guys next time.